Is mental and physical health being disregarded during this crisis? How confusing can certain media outlets be during all of this? And why are so many policies being categorized as a one-size-fits-all? What's going on, guys? This is Hayden coming at you with another episode of the Pernosophy podcast, a show about life science and philosophy. So there's this article going around at the moment titled Coronavirus Australia, Gyms to Stay Closed Until September. And so this article is, as you can see, appearing on news.com.au, which is supposed to be this reputable website where it reports on the news that's going on in Australia. And, you know, keeping in mind that this particular news outlet is during shows like Married at First Sight, they're tweeting out on their official Twitter things that are going on in the show. They're making simple GIFs and tweeting about oh my God, Bianca said this. How amazing is this? So they're using their news.com.au Twitter account to tweet these like bits of information about a TV show that most people that follow news.com.au for the news, they don't care about maths. They don't care about things that are going on in the show. So you've got a website that is so reputable in Australia writing articles with headlines like this just to make people flip out, just to make people have this emotional reaction so that they just share this article around. Because that's a huge headline claim. Coronavirus, gyms to stay closed until September. Of course, everyone's going to be clicking on this article if they're interested in going back to the gym. They're interested in their health and fitness. You've got the subheadline saying, the subheading, with many desperate to return to the gym, experts have warned people not to get their hopes up until after winter. So 2 experts are in this article. Again, like desperate to get back to the gym, you might have to stick to the home workouts a lot longer. So this is already supposed to make people go, you're bloody kidding me. Like, we got to wait till after winter to go back to the gym to get moving again. So it's going to make everyone click on it, and that's all these news outlets care about is just clicks. They care about popularity. They care about how much emotion can they inflict on these people. So then their website gets more clicks. Their ads can get more ad revenue, and that's. Experts predict gyms won't be able to reopen until after winter in September, and even then there could still be restrictions with a staged rollout to get back to normal. And so one of the experts, Australasian College for Infection Prevention and Control Professor Phil Russo, said exercise classes might return with 10 people before increasing to usual sizes if there are no outbreaks. So they've gone from gyms to stay closed to 10 people before increasing to usual sizes. And then you go further. Just like when earlier restrictions on gyms were introduced, equipment could be spaced well apart. So a lot of gyms out there, especially in Australia, are hygienic. They're well spaced out. They don't have too many people going at once. Obviously, after the 5 p.m. Usual work crowd that comes in, it's probably the busiest time. But a lot of gyms, especially with a virus like this going around, are going to be intelligent enough to go, we need to move the equipment away. We need to enforce how many people are going to be inside the gym. Even with 24-hour gyms where people can go in at any time, they can set restrictions on their system so that maybe only 5 people can swipe in at once. So you've got, the 5 people come through, and then if someone tries to swipe in again, they just get the error on the screen saying you can't come in right now. And so they just wait out the front for an hour or whatever, or they go do something else, they come back and maybe they get in. So they've got to obviously establish more infrastructure around that with a website and whatnot. But there are so many protocols that gyms would be so interested in implementing to get people back into the gym, because it seems odd that gyms, or just if you look at it, health and fitness, physical and mental, is suddenly not an essential thing. You've got bottle shops, video game stores, you've got construction, all of these other industries, surf shops where you just go buy a new pair of board shorts or bikini or whatever. Like, these stores are still open, yet gyms where you have disinfectant, you have paper towels, you have soap, you have people being intelligent enough to not cough all over each other, space each other out, restrict the amount of people in the facility at any one time. And not only that, there are gyms that are the 24-hour sort of franchise gyms where there's more just like the general public coming in and out whenever they want. There's also so many more niche-like gyms where they can definitely enforce how many people, how many trainers are working at once. So the fact that they're saying that gyms as a whole in Australia are not going to be open till September, till after winter, just putting that blanket statement out there, it's ludicrous, because you go from like news sites like this where people are going to be looking to news sites like this to get the proper information. They're going from gyms to stay closed until September to, well, they might return till 10 people before increasing to usual sizes. And that's one of the experts. And then you've got, just like when early restrictions on gyms were introduced, equipment could be spaced well apart. Yep. Gyms, I think, are going to be quite challenging, blah, 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 purely because they gather a large number of people. So again, you can be enforcing how many people come in at once. COVID is spread by person to person, blah, blah, blah. Gyms and indoor sporting venues were forced, blah, blah, blah. Okay, outdoor gyms remain closed, which is one of the ridiculous things at the moment. Obviously, it's hard to keep the outdoor public equipment clean and whatnot, because people are just going to be using it whenever they want. And they're not going to, most people aren't going to be like, well, I'll take my alcohol wipes down there and make sure I sanitize in between sets. A lot of people aren't going to be doing that, but that could be a rule that is brought in. You must wipe down, and people are maybe actively watching the outdoor equipment. So there's like measures and protocols that can be introduced to help people get moving again, help people get back outside. And on top of that, you've got outdoor gyms where they're in the sun, where there's air and they're not in enclosed spaces. These kinds of areas should be starting to be more promoted as being places that people should go, because like the new information that's coming out recently, where sunlight and heat, humidity is potentially something that will be counteracting the virus. It's just only new stuff that they're talking about at the moment. Okay, and then, so thinking of the title, right? It's like experts are saying, and then you come down to this part. Prime Minister Scott Morrison flagged the restrictions could be in place for up to 6 months when he initially announced them. So they're like claiming this huge headline of this is what's going on, but then they then refer to something that happened in the past where they're like, well, this is what he initially said. So they're using past info as and quoting them as another expert to add fuel to this. But it all comes apart now, because the next expert, again, we've got Australian National University microbiology professor Peter Collington told the Mail, which is referring to the Daily Mail. So this article comes from the Daily Mail, which is, if you've ever read one of their articles, they're just... Anyway, people should assume gyms would be closed until the end of winter. So they're saying people should assume gyms would be closed. And then it would be a gradual thing where physical distance rules are going to have to be respected for quite a while, and hand hygiene. Well, of course, a lot of people are already doing that with their daily life. A lot of people are smart enough to make sure they clean what they're about to use, what they've just used. And these rules are already something that happens in most gyms, where they're like, people mostly use a towel, wipe down their equipment after they've used it. And it's like a thing that, there's just that blanket thought and blanket statement over something like this to say that, no, we're not going to worry about people's mental health, people's physical health in a time like this. It's crazy. And so then, where does it come apart even more? Okay, this is the part where you've gone from gyms to stay closed until September, with many desperate to them. Experts have warned people not to get their hopes up. You go to exercise classes might return with 10 people, which is what we had when the rules started coming in Australia. We went from it being fine to cut down to 100 in one place, and then it went down to 10, then it went down to only you're allowed one-on-one, and then outdoor, and then public equipment got closed because people were just being idiots, where they were going in their groups and just using the monkey bars, using the swing set, whatever they wanted to do, and they just all hanging out in a group. So a lot of people, when the rules first came in, just ruined it for everybody else, because they could have been smarter about it and gone, well, one person at a time, wipe down your equipment after it. But instead they just all were thinking, oh, it's fine to be outdoors and we can be in big groups. So there were people that did ruin it for the most of the industry. So exercise classes might return with 10 people. So you've straight away negated what they set up here. which is the headline, which is supposed to catch people's attention, which is supposed to make people click. And a lot of people will just read that and then exit. They're just, oh, done. Has this shared around everyone? Oh my goodness. And then you go to the end. Okay, so people are allowed to exercise outdoors as long as it's with members of their household or with one other person, and social distancing rules are applied, which is what everybody is doing. Most people are smart enough to be implementing these rules. Beaches are also. And then on Wednesday afternoon, Deputy Chief Medical Officer Professor Paul Kelly said restrictions would be reviewed in three weeks as new cases continue to fall across the country. This is the exact contrast of what this article went out to do. It's went out to make people annoyed, to make people be upset, make people share it, to have an emotional reaction. But you can't go from saying a blanket statement like this down to saying restrictions will be reviewed in 3 weeks. And especially in a country like Australia where we're really spread out, we have a great health system. And one of the things, like, where does it say? But three key benchmarks must be met. Flattening the curve. We have done that. We have started to do that. We have got on top of it. The rate of infection has gone down. Rate of death has gone down. And flattening the curve, a lot of people think it's going to end the virus, but flattening the curve is merely meant to just slow down how many people are going into hospital at once, so they don't overload the system, they don't overload the workers. Flattening the curve is already happening, so we're meeting that benchmark. The more uptake of the health tracking app, a lot of people with the virus that have been through the virus most likely are going to be using that app. And the preparedness for health authorities to respond to clusters. Obviously, there's so many things that can be done there. Again, the social distancing rules can and would still apply inside a gym. More cleaning of equipment, more hand sanitizing, washing in between sets even, making sure the people that are working there will enforce that. So trainers working with their clientele would be easily able to monitor that kind of thing. So having like a blanket statement like that where all gyms are going to close in Australia until September, putting all these people out of work even longer. Obviously, there's online stuff, but it's not the same as this face-to-face interaction, which is what people are in this industry for. They're not in the personal training industry to just be on the screen, to be online with everything. It's one component that a lot of people come to the gym for, to get out of the house, to talk bullshit with their trainer, to just move and just feel better with the social connections that are going on around the gym as well. And that's another thing as well. We have to start looking at mental and physical health as being an essential component to everybody's life. We can't just say no more of this gym thing because it's too dirty in there and people are going to be in closed spaces. There's so many gyms around Australia that are spread out enough. They're smart enough to have disinfectant everywhere, to have paper towels, to make sure not too many people are in the facility at once. There's so many protocols that can be implemented to make sure everybody's safe in the gym. Nobody wants to spread this virus more. Nobody wants to kill more people. And most people want to get back to exercising. Most people want to get back to socializing again, being able to get out of the house every now and then. And I think we need to start looking at how we can go about that, especially in Australia when we're not at the same mercy as other countries are. But anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. Do you think that the gyms will remain closed until after winter? You can let me know down in the comments below. If you'd like to drop me a line, you can leave me an email at pernosophy@gmail.com. And I guess that's about it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon.